Good morning. Welcome to IT Nation Secure. We're here interviewing some of the people that are making the decisions, making the announcements. And joining me is no different, the CTO of ConnectWise. It's Raghu Bongula. How you doing, my friend?
I'm doing good, Ray. Thank you for having me. Good to see you again.
Same here, same here. So it's been a jam-packed event, lots of announcements, the key announcement being ConnectWise 360. So with that, one of the things Patrick said was that one of the things he enjoys is you and him have a good working relationship between a CTO and a CISO. And that's not a common thing because your job generally is you guys are supposed to say no to each other, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to checks and balances. So how does that work at a scale of your size? I imagine you have a lot of very difficult conversations. So inform some of us. How do you have that conversation when you have your responsibilities, but you still need to work with the other person?
Yeah, Patrick is an excellent guy. In fact, I think he's being very modest.
Mhm.
there are many bad, I would say, tough conversations he and I have on many fronts. I mean, that's how it should work because I think he can, to your point, he can put checks and balances on what we do and like go back and say that, okay, fine, can we kind of do this? What's the kind of the risk profile? So all in all, right? So Patrick is someone who's very practical, who has done this for a long time, has seen a lot of things. And I do have support from the general managers who again have come from various backgrounds, built like major enterprise companies. So the way we look at it is, as Patrick also mentioned in the keynote, is do the basics right.
Right.
So the way we look at it, there's a proactive side of it, there's a reactive side of it. Have the tools, technology, people, process for the proactive side of it, which is have a good mechanisms to kind of prevent anything, like have mechanism to scan your code, have mechanism to do your penetration testing, have mechanisms to kind of have a secured process embedded in your development, the proactive side of it. And reactive, when things do go wrong, have a playbook. What are you going to do if you get a ransomware? What are you going to do if you get a vulnerability? What are you going to do if you get a some sort of an intrusion? What is your playbook? How does it look like? How do you kind of prevent it? How do you kind of quarantine, right? So a lot of his teams really works with my cloud engineering team to build those playbooks. Okay? So now that has really gone long way. And the thing what I enjoy working with Patrick is he's always practical about like saying, so sometimes there's a lot of noise in the system, like any time. So what he's very good at is he's saying that let's look at different factors. Let's look at exploitability. Let's look at what's the risk. Which ones are behind the VPN, which ones are outside of the VPN, so that we kind of categorize it. And the way we have done it is in our development process, we spend 60% of our time on new product development, 20% time on maintenance, 20% time on security across
Yes. Okay.
So we have a framework, like a very term. Instead of trying to kind of say that, oh, fine, we'll do it security when we need it. It's part of the playbook. It's part of every engineer is told that that's kind of the time that we want to spend. So that way we don't want to lose any time. We don't want to take any risk of not putting enough time on security, as an example. Right. So that has really helped us to kind of, if you look at any of the stats, any of the graphs, it shows that we were able to tackle a lot of security related things much more ahead of the peers in the space.
Yeah. So with that said, and Patrick reiterated the same thing: foundational knowledge, go back to the basics. How does the single pane of glass, how does ConnectWise 360 fit in that? Because let's be honest, we've been talking single pane of glass for the long time. That's been the goal, right? That's been the holy grail.
That's right.
And so I'm curious, why today? Why now in 2024? We've been talking about single pane at least for 10 years.
Agreed.
Why are we able to accomplish it today?
Yeah, so single pane of glass, to your point, has been talked about for a long time in various aspects. In security also, a lot of them try to do it. Now, what is different now, what is allowing us to do that now better than before is, at least this is my opinion, like, before, a lot of data used to come from a lot of sources. First thing, we didn't necessarily have good ways to kind of consume so much data, first thing. And there was a lot of false positives. So what was happening in the past is when others tried it, when you put in single pane of glass, it was not necessarily reducing the noise, it was increasing the noise, because now you were seeing bigger numbers.
Right, you're getting more data confusion. Points.
So now one thing which is really, in my opinion, is helping is vectorizing the data, which is going to applying the AI, ML techniques or Gen AI techniques on the data, which is for the most part, if you look at the techniques before, they were very two-dimensional, for the most part. So what that caused is, because of the amount of data points you have, we used to run into a lot more false positives. Now the approach we are taking here, because of the fact that we are looking at vectorized data, we feel the false positives are going to reduce. At that point, I think the relevancy of what we show their issues is going to be better. That's and the advantage of bringing in different dimensions, like a network dimension, an email dimension, and endpoint dimension. With the metadata we have, doing a vectorized model, it can, like the way Gen AI works, it can create correlations much more efficiently than before. Like the compute you need for that, the processing you need for that to kind of accomplish that is much more accessible today.
So, and to that, the thousands, hundreds of thousands of data points you get per day, across all these systems you're managing. Is it AI? And it's hard to have any conversation today, especially in the security space, without AI coming into focus. Because, but previously we had ML, and we still have ML. We still have big data processing. That's been a thing that's been a major focus for a long time. Do you think AI had a component in unlocking this ability today?
Yeah, so in the past, to your point, again, AI ML has been there for many years, right? So many years, right? Now, what I would say though is the approach to the AI, the way we did AI. I mean, I remember when I got certified in ML, AI ML in 2020, I believe. Okay. So when and I had ML teams, from even before that, right? So 2018, 2017, I had teams outside of ConnectWise. So the way it used to be is, in many cases, teams used to go and build their own models. They used to do pretty much write their code for basic stuff. So if I had to put that into programming, as a context, so it's like writing your own solved algorithm. Like no one does it today because we have it, right? Similarly,
there's too many good libraries.
Correct, right? So the same way in AI ML, now it has reached the masses that there's a lot of fundamental building blocks are available. So a lot of time which we had to spend on building that building blocks are available out of the box. So now I can go to any cloud provider, take it Azure, take it AWS, or take even open source like Hugging Face. They give me all the models. Like if I say I want to do an anomaly detection, there are already like many libraries available which I can just plug in my data and done. Right? So now it is becoming almost like, if I had to kind of even put in a cloud terms, like we went from a transition from IaaS to PaaS to almost like a SaaS. Similarly, here the transition is going on in many cases. I probably don't have to even write a single line of code to get that, right? So what it has allowed is, it has allowed, I would say, a standard software engineer with a little bit additional knowledge, little bit extra time spending on learning AI. They're able to now contribute to AI, which was not easily possible before. So now you have more hands touching AI, contributing to AI now, which is going to lead more opportunities. And then fundamentally, the way approach a traditional way of searching data and way vectors work, it definitely adds additional dimension, which provides more context than before. So for that reason, the relevancy has increased. But other side, I mean, as we all can agree, right? There's so much going on. Like so many transformers are coming up on a regular basis. So much innovation is happening from so many companies around the world. Obviously, the big ones, definitely the Mag 7 anyway. Plus, outside of Mag 7, there are a lot of startups like Perplexity. So many of them, they're bringing a different perspective. So we're going to see this for some time. With that, what we're going to see is, we're going to see even enterprise players, like, if you look at enterprise players like CrowdStrike and others, they are bringing in a lot of different perspectives. Now, what we're going to see is in the security space, some of that is going to bleed into MSP space. And my goal, like, Patrick, Amir, and my goal here is super simple, right? Look at the best practices in the security, bring them to the MSP space. And MSPify them, see what works for MSP, and then allow them to play on that or play on that same field as some of the other big players do at enterprise level.
So let me ask you a question. With that ease of access, with that, you're right, it is very easy now to nowadays you don't even have to, you have custom built GPTs where you can use for specific projects and questions. Patrick is focused on the security and the guardrails. You're focused on innovation. You talked about your 2020-60 application of how you do things. Has it informed how you determine what innovative avenues you should go exploring because now you have these security guardrails, especially around AI, that we're still trying to figure out what the guardrails are. There's a lot of information, but also it changes. How does that affect how you determine what path you should be going down?
Yeah, so a few things here, right? So what happened is, back in 2023 Feb, I believe we released a ConnectWise AI responsible statement. So one thing which we have done at the time is, we stepped back, we brought in legal, we brought in info security, which is Patrick and team. We brought in all our GMs and including our CEO. We sat down and said, we wanted to, I know that there'll be concerns in the industry, like how we are using the data, what we're going to do, what we are not going to do. So what we did is, we went and created a responsible AI statement, which we said what we're going to do, what we are not going to do. We said that we're going to keep it transparent. We're going to exactly tell where we are using AI.
Yeah.
We're going to give an option for the user, say that I don't want it, turn it off. So we're going to have a security first, which is any AI model which goes through the security process to make sure that we have the guardrails
Yeah.
across how we are using the data, how we are maintaining the tenancy and things like that. Okay.
Yeah.
So we did that, and what we also said is everything we build, it's going to go through an early access so that partners can look at it and see
Okay.
if there are deficiencies in any of the things. So 100% of the features we are committed to it. So with that framework, every product we build, it's going through that. But this landscape is changing. So we have White House release a new AI guidelines.
Yeah.
We also have European Union release a new AI guidelines.
Mhm.
So we have internally the team looking at that every time, the compliance team, legal team looking at it, informing us, saying that this is what we have. These are the boundaries. This is where things are changing. This is an ever-changing landscape. In many cases, what we are doing is also, we are not necessarily building the Lego blocks. We are
Okay.
using the Lego blocks to
Yeah.
provide us acceleration, right? So,
Yeah.
and that's the right way to do it, because in this case, like an LLM,
Mhm.
we don't necessarily have the resources or the energy to build our own LLM.
Oh, of course.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we are using Azure OpenAI as our LLM today,
Mhm.
but we have flexibility to kind of move it around
Right.
if we see something else is
And
better
that
fit for a
you think
MS-360.
that's going to the universality of some of these GPTs. Now you don't have to, because when we look at automation, okay, are we going to do Salt? Are we going to do Puppet? Are we going to do like you start looking at different things, and any kind of scripted building, whatever technology, you're always
Sure.
you have a lot of options.
Mhm.
Nowadays, you can take a lot of the disciplines you have and use in one GPT, you go to another GPT, and a lot of those things, the prompt engineering still applies. So when you look at stuff like that, that requires a different level of, like we used to have to teach people to Google, right? Back in earlier in our careers. How do you inform your teams and say, this is how, so responsible AI, I get it, what we're doing with the data, how we're going to apply it, who's going to have access to it. But for your teams, how to use the data to iterate, to innovate. Do you guys do any training around that? Are there any like bullet points you look for?
Sure. So you brought up some good point with bringing up Puppet and Salt. I mean, it
Yeah.
takes me back to my,
Yeah.
many years ago. So I've used Salt, Puppet, Chef,
Yeah.
Ansible, all the four, and have good memories from it. So, so DevOps, to your point, like 15 years ago, went to a transformation, right? So there was a culture shift, there was a
Yeah.
mind shift. Okay, there was a lot of teams were used to a certain way of working. They had to completely change it. And in AI, I would say exactly the same thing is going on.
Yeah.
So in my team, for my development team, we use GitHub Copilot for our own development. So
Yeah.
today we use that, right? So now there was a big transformation, right? So there's a big concern saying that, oh, you know what's going to happen? Okay, am I going to lose my job? Like similarly in DevOps days, I remember a lot of engineers, both system administrators and developers used to tell me saying, look, I'm going to lose my job if you can automate, let's say, building, deploying this. But what history has showed is actually we wanted more. It created a cloud first thing. Obviously, it created more opportunities. Similarly, there's definitely concern saying that, okay, what would happen to their jobs, okay, if we do this? But the way I look at it is, I think the threat is not necessarily from AI by itself. The threat is from other companies who are using AI because they're going to be more efficient.
Yes.
And taking out a lot of boilerplate stuff, a lot of basic stuff. So we do a variety of things, right? So we do have ML team, okay, who leads a lot of sessions. We have, as a team, we subscribe to Udemy.
Okay. Yeah.
So all our engineers have access to Udemy, which has a lot of curriculum. As part of the goals, all our engineers are at least supposed to finish one certification, one technology certification, so that they can keep up with what's going on in the industry, right?
Okay.
And that certification doesn't necessarily have to be something we are using today.
Yeah.
The intention here is that we want I'm a big fan of upskilling myself.
Yes. Yeah.
I do certifications myself.
Same.
So that, so that, and I teach the same for my team, saying that all my leaders, all my engineers, they are, as part of their goals, they are supposed to finish at least one technology certification in the area they are not familiar with.
Yes.
So that's the avenue we have taken. And one thing which we have done is, if anyone raises their hand saying that I want to work on AI, we have a backlog saying that these are the problems you want to solve, because always there are more problems than we can solve.
Yeah.
So they can pick up a problem, create a feature branch, build it, go through the process with all the responsible AI, and then if it solves a problem, we can put it in early access. And if it works good, that becomes a production feature.
It reminds me very much Google's infamous 20% rule, right? So you can work on your moonshot projects. And it seems like, and some of the problem with that is it requires a certain mindset to say, what things can we solve? I like having the idea of the backlog of things. These are the problems we have. If you want to grab one and go for it, go for it. So you touched on something. You're actively educating your staff, having them keep learning new things, whether it's relevant to their current job or not. You're upscaling. You're looking to the future. we have a lot of people here that coming into the space that are just getting into the space, just getting into technology.
Mhm.
We still have the MFA conversations. We still have, we still have automation, and it's going to take my job away. We see that still. So for those people just starting out that do want to eventually work for somebody like you, that do want to go through the paces, looking back now, if you go to the beginning of your career to today, if you were going to give advice to somebody starting, where would you have them?
Yeah, I would say, I think initially in the career, we think about, we generally are a lot more worried that, do I have all the skills?
Yeah.
Will I be able to make it? Huh?
Yeah.
So I would say, I think we should not worry about that. Rather, lean in. So obviously you need to have your 8 to 5 job. Definitely, you need to have your job. Go and do that. But spend times on the evenings. Spend times on the weekends. Spend few hours. Upskill yourself. Build your own startup. Build a small project on the side.
Yeah.
Do it end to end. Understand the life cycle. Understand aspects which you're not familiar.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see that there are areas you don't know. Get certified in them. Get trained in them. Build the confidence. Okay. Have the confidence that you can take any problem and build it end to end, which is you are able to write the code, you're able to test the code, you're able to secure it, you're able to deploy it, you're able to maybe add AI. So do that end to end. Okay. And I think it's going to take some time. Have patience. Learn through that. Learn through that. And once you do that, I think the sky is the limit. I think I felt, some of those things I learned over the years. Yeah. Again, I didn't really do it as early as I should have.
Yeah.
And I would advise this, right? Look at it as like, don't, I think especially when you're coming into the space new, you probably would have a lot more time compared to what you would have after a few years from then.
Yeah.
So definitely take advantage of that. Do your 8 to 5, but spend some time in the evenings and weekends.
Yeah.
Upskilling you like an hour every day. Doing that goes a long way. I think you might not realize right now, but 10 years from now, you're going to thank yourself that you did that. So that's advice I would say, I think, give. And in fact, that's what I tell my son to.
Yeah, that's good. I love that. And I don't know if you had great corporate comms conversations prior to IT Nation, but this recurring theme of going back to basics, continuing to educate yourself, continue to upskill yourself. I love hearing that message. A lot of times you hear from techs or bosses in the space and they'll say, people don't want to do certifications. People don't, what's the point? Or you get to upper in your career, you get to further in your career, and sometimes we don't make the time to keep learning and do the certifications because we have people underneath us that are very smart and they're focused on that. So I love to hear, I do the same. I LinkedIn Learning, Udemy, I love it. So I love that. So regardless of where in your career you're at, keep upskilling, never stop, keep doing the certifications, keep doing the basics, regardless of where you're at. And maybe one day you can be the CTO of ConnectWise. Raghu, thank you so much, my friend. It's always a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you.
So this is Raghu Bongula, CTO of ConnectWise. And until next time, thanks for joining us.
If you found this episode eye-opening, catch more MSP Dispatch at 10 a.m. throughout the week. Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
This has been a broadcast of the MSP Media Network.